Make a difference, said Washington State Governor Jay Inslee on ABC this week.
This is a solvable problem, but we need to stop using fossil fuels. That is the only solution to some matter of humanity.
Forecasters expect the heat waves to continue for several more days, if not weeks, in various parts of the world. Veronica Valderas Iglesias, VOA News, Washington.
Protests continue in Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's proposed plan to overhaul the judiciary. For 7 months, the grassroots Israeli protest movement rallied against the contentious plan. The overall calls for sweeping changes aimed at curbing the powers of the judiciary. Netanyahu is still recovering in a hospital after an emergency heart procedure as tens of thousands of supporters and opponents of his judicial overhaul plan hold rival rallies ahead of the key vote. Monday's vote is Parliament is expected to approve the first major piece of the legislation. A video statement from the hospital, the 73-year-old Netanyahu's held down on the possibility of a compromise with his opponents, but he also said he planned on attending Monday's vote in Parliament. You'll find more at voanews.com. Again, that is voanews.com. I'm Tommy Neal, VOA News.
Wildfire is still blazing on the Greek island of Rhodes as dozens more erupt across the country.
It was impossible to get onto coaches because people just ran. It was literally like the end of the world. And the flames were now far more visible. Suddenly they were leaping flames into the sky.
Plus, why hundreds of thousands of Israelis are taking to the streets in the largest and longest sustained protests in the country's history.
It's a moment unlike any other that Israel has really ever seen. And they've arrived in Jerusalem, they're camping out, and it's this a show of force by a civilian population that's just saying absolutely not in this legislation.
And superheroes and villains gathered in San Diego over the weekend for the 2023 Comic-Con Comic Book Convention. Today is Monday, July 24th, and this is VOA's International Edition. I'm Lori London in Washington. Firefighters struggled through the night to contain 82 wildfires across Greece, 64 of which started Sunday, the hottest day of summer so far. The most serious fire is on the island of Rhodes. Some 19,000 people have been evacuated from several locations on Rhodes as wildfires burned for a 6th day, and authorities warn more fires could follow as temperatures climb. VOA's Arash Arabasadi has this report.
A wildfire roars in the Greek island of Rhodes, marking 6 days since the blaze began. A multinational effort is underway to help contain the disaster that sent more than 19,000 people scrambling for safety. Adding to the danger in Greece are temperatures climbing north of 45 degrees Celsius, paired with dry conditions and island winds known to change speed and direction. Dozens of private boats teamed up with the Coast Guard to ferry away the thousands who made their way to the Greek shoreline in what authorities there described as one of the biggest evacuation efforts in the country's history. One government official said maritime rescue carried 3,000 people to safety, while others gathered outside of schools and gymnasiums for a chance at securing a mattress on a basketball court and staying out of harm's way. Rhodes is a tourist destination known for its long beaches. It is also home to more than 100,000 people who've been living in the cloud of this wildfire for nearly a week. But they are not alone. Firefighters elsewhere in Greece recently battled blazes to the north and west of the capital, Athens.
Ils vont enregistrer avec leur téléphone et ils vont les transmettre au système de données qui seront mis en place par la société civile. Donc nous allons faire un tapis.
mission commerciale en Afrique sera
Pékin a annoncé qu'elle imposerait ses propres contrôles à l'exploitation sur les métaux rares, dont le gallium et le germanium, à compter du 1er août. À ce jour, le Japon ne considère pas la décision de la Chine comme une mesure de représailles. Tokyo compte voir comment la mesure est mise en œuvre pour comprendre l'initiative de Pékin et évaluer son impact.
Quant à la Russie, elle a dit ce lundi avoir neutralisé 2 drones ukrainiens à Moscou durant la nuit, affirmant avoir déjoué un acte terroriste sur la capitale russe. Selon le maire de Moscou, il n'y a pas de victimes. Pour sa part, l'Ukraine avait promis dimanche des représailles après les frappes russes sur Odessa, qui ont fait 2 morts et détruit une cathédrale historique, pendant que Vladimir Poutine affirmait que la contre-offensive ukrainienne lancée début juin avait échoué. En Espagne, au lendemain d'élections qui n'ont pas permis de dégager une majorité, le Premier ministre socialiste Pedro Sánchez et son rival conservateur Alberto Núñez Feijóo, dont le parti a remporté le plus grand nombre de députés, vont entamer dès ce lundi des tractations pour tenter d'éviter de nouvelles élections.
La compagnie internationale CSG a annoncé l'achèvement de son projet de transformation numérique avec Airtel Africa, fournisseur de services de télécommunications et financiers mobiles dans 14 pays d'Afrique. Il s'agit de simplifier les processus, réduire les coûts et raccourcir le délai de mise sur le marché. Le directeur de la technologie chez Airtel Africa, Razan Ongorenu, a estimé que la compagnie vise à fidéliser les clients à vie. La Société mondiale d'infrastructures et de paiement TerraPay a annoncé un partenariat avec Safaricom, principal fournisseur de TIC et de services financiers du Kenya. Les 2 entreprises vont faciliter les paiements transfrontaliers instantanés. Ce partenariat, par l'intermédiaire du fournisseur de services de transfert de fonds Monex, permettra à plus de 30 millions de personnes au Kenya d'envoyer des paiements en temps réel au Bangladesh, au Pakistan et ensuite en Inde et au Népal. Le Nigeria prévoit de collecter 7 500 milliards de naira d'impôts, soit plus de 9,6 milliards de dollars au 2e semestre 2023, après une performance record au cours des 6 premiers mois de l'année. Le président du service fédéral des impôts, Mohamed Nami, a précisé que la précédente performance s'explique par l'amélioration de la conformité fiscale volontaire des contribuables et le renforcement de l'autonomisation des processus de l'administration fiscale.
Merci Nathalie. À présent, les sports avec Élisée Compagnie. Bonjour.
Oui, bonjour Idrissa et bonjour à tous.
Le premier tour du mondial féminin de football se poursuit en Australie et en Nouvelle-Zélande.
Oui, et entrée en liste aujourd'hui du dernier représentant africain, le Maroc, qui jouera contre l'Allemagne, un adversaire redoutable, reconnaît le sélectionneur des Lions de l'Atlas qui veut s'inspirer de la performance des hommes demi-finalistes du dernier mondial au Qatar. Renald Pedros, au micro d'Amina Casablanca.
On match tellement excitant de jouer cette équipe d'Allemagne qui est vice-champion d'Europe et qui participe à cette Coupe du Monde pour la gagner. D'abord, ce que je tiens à dire à mes joueurs, c'est qu'il y a 3 matchs. Et que après ce premier match, même s'il y a un résultat négatif ou un résultat positif, il faudra jouer les 2 autres pour se qualifier. Voilà, donc très sincèrement, je pense que nous, on s'est inspiré, on s'est appuyé sur ce qu'a fait l'équipe nationale marocaine à la Coupe du Monde masculine. Dans l'état d'esprit, d'énergie, de détermination. Voilà, c'est quelque chose qui est très important.
Maroc-Allemagne, coup d'envoi du match tout à l'heure à partir de 8h30 temps universel. Et après ça, on suivra le dernier match de cette première journée des matchs de poule qui va opposer le Brésil au Panama.
Un début de compétition timide pour les représentantes de l'Afrique.
Un seul nul obtenu par le Nigeria 0-0 face au Canada. Sinon, rien que des défaites. La Zambie qui a pris l'eau 5-0 contre le Japon. Et puis l'Afrique du Sud, championne d'Afrique en titre, y a cru avant de céder dans les derniers instants du match.
capable of replacing Ukraine grain exports to Africa following its withdrawal from a UN deal allowing their safe passage through the Black Sea. And once the epicenter of Australia's HIV epidemic, inner Sydney appears on course to be the first place on earth to meet a UN goal for eliminating transmission.
Let's get the sports headlines now, and Isaac Fanning's got his eye on 3 games in the Women's World Cup today.
Yes, 3 games indeed. The first kicks off in Auckland in a few hours' time. Well, actually, not in a few hours' time, very soon, as Italy take on Argentina. Our sports reporter, Maz Faruqi, is in Wellington ahead of the host New Zealand's match against the Philippines on Tuesday. Maz, morning to you, or afternoon to you, I should say. What is a look at yesterday's the heartbreak for South Africa against Sweden?
Yes, hello from a cold and wintry Wellington, Isaac. It is evening here. We are waiting to hear from the New Zealand head coach in the next couple of minutes. Obviously, the co-host doing very, very well and winning their opening game. A win tomorrow against the Philippines could pretty much put them into the knockout stages. But yesterday here, I watched heartbreak for South Africa, as you say, minutes away, seconds away, really, from recording their first ever point at a Women's World Cup. They conceded a late winner from Sweden in the 90th minute to lose 2-1 to the Olympic silver medalists. They started so well. They took the lead in the second half. Hilda Mahaya putting them ahead. But yes, for South Africa against the side, Sweden ranked 3rd in the world. They were really playing well, matching them so well, but heartbreak for them in the latter stages. Still, though, many positives to take from the South Africa head coach, Desiree Ellis. I spoke to her after the game. She says despite the defeat, she's still really happy with how her team performed. I think winning the Western block here was a big plus for us. We had a lot of challenges during the tournament, and through their challenges we rose, and I think that has really brought the team together. I think the people back home that got up at 7 a.m. in the morning, I think they would be rejoicing in the street, even though we lost because of the performance.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it throughout this World Cup. I watched the England match against Haiti. Some of the smaller teams are really pushing the bigger sides. We saw it against South Africa, against Sweden. New Zealand did it in the first match when they beat Norway. Is this a trend that we're going to see, you think, as the tournament progresses, these smaller teams pushing the more established sides?
Yeah, don't forget France being pushed by Jamaica all the way as well yesterday. That only a draw. The USA only getting 3 past Vietnam tournament debutantes. And it was really interesting, wasn't it, Isaac, heading into this World Cup? We wondered how the 8 debutantes might fare. We feared they might be on the wrong end of some really big scores. You think back to Thailand 4 years ago when they're beaten 13-0 by the USA. But you're absolutely right. We have not seen those kind of scorelines yet at this World Cup. In fact, a lot of the established teams, if we can call them that, the likes of Sweden, the likes of the USA, England, France, the Netherlands, all struggling a bit at the moment, not really setting this tournament alight yet. I think the only really established team that we've been impressed by so far is Japan, who obviously put 5 goals past Zambia. So I think you're right. I think the gaps, if you like, between the teams at the top and the rest is closing, but obviously we still talk a lot about the fact that a lot of these teams are at the start of their women's football journey, if you like, but they really are showing that they have earned their place on this world stage. There's been some really impressive performances from some of these teams that perhaps we are less familiar with. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, we've got 3 matches today. What are you looking for in those 3 matches?
Interesting to see, as you say, Italy against Argentina shortly. Italy really disappointing at the European Championship last year after a really impressive run at the World Cup back in 2019. The Italian league turned professional for the first time in the women's game last season as well. So they really are, again, one of these teams that are really putting a lot more resources, a lot more money into women's football. I would expect Italy to really want to try and put right some of the stuff that went wrong for them in England last year at the European Championship. Germany, Morocco, though, is the game I think we've all been really looking forward to seeing, isn't it? You know, Morocco, we talked so much about their run to the final of the Africa Cup of Nations last year, the record crowds for women's football in Morocco as they hosted that tournament, of course beaten in the final by South Africa, but they are really exciting a lot of people, Morocco. We expect noisy vocal support as well. Germany, though, really tough opponents. For me, my tip is the team to go all the way at this tournament, so let's see how they start out against Morocco later.
I appreciate you for joining us. That is our Reporter Maz Faruqi out in Wellington joining us on this programme. Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic match, that Morocco game against Germany. We've also got Brazil against Panama. Marta, who has played at will hopefully play her sixth World Cup tournament, so an icon for women's football a little bit later on today. But yeah, it's been a fantastic tournament so far.
And you want even more on it, you can get the World Football at the Women's World Cup pod available on the BBC website or wherever you usually get your downloads. Isaac, thank you.
Now, we have long dying in pain because of a shortage of opioids in the country and dedicated to providing end-of-life care in Ethiopia. I began by asking why there is a shortage of these drugs in the country.
The reasons are really multifactorial. That include lack of local morphine production in the country, and there is also a poor chain of supply, and because we don't produce in the country, we have to import it. That also makes it expensive for the majority of our patients. And I think the level of awareness about the dignity of importance of morphine is also poor.
And what does that mean for patients, particularly those who are at the end of their lives?
Well, look, it means a lot to have lack of oral morphine for our patients where they are in agony pain and they don't have morphine, so that it really takes their hope, meaning of life, and they beg us, to give them morphine, but we don't have it. So, we use other medicines, but still unable to achieve the level of, quality of life we want, to give them, and still, they suffer. So, yeah.
A report by the medical journal The Lancet, which came out in 2017, said that poorest countries receive just 1% of the supply, despite having 50% of the people. You can see the Western world awash with opioids and the addiction problems that come with that. How does that make you feel as a medical practitioner?
You see, the Western awash with opioids and this, stuff is other issues, and we're awash with patients in severe pain, untreated pain, So, sometimes I feel it is our world is unfair and we're underprivileged. So, like I said earlier, we strive to treat the untreated pain of our patients where, it affects their lives and their families, and for us as workers as well, because it gives us really sadness and depression. Of course, sometimes we can help them through morphine, we can relieve their pain, but it's not there. So it feels really hopeless sometimes.
And it isn't just about opioids. Your organization, Hospice Ethiopia, is the only end-of-life care provider in the country. Why is access so poor?
Generally, still palliative care is new for the healthcare system, and it is not in the medical and nursing curriculum. And for us, Hospice Ethiopia rely on donations, and we have limited financial resources to expand our care services, more in the country.
That was Ephraim Abaton, the Executive Director of Hospice Ethiopia.
Well, let's return to the Women's World Cup now and the pay gap there is between male and female international players. The prize money allocated by the sports governing body FIFA to the current women's tournament has risen compared to the last one in 2019, but a huge gender gap remains between the male and female players. Well, the United Nations has teamed up with FIFA to try to advance gender equality, but what exactly is their plan? Jennifer Cooper is the coordinator of global sport partnerships at the agency United Nations Women.
I can say that this year for the 2023 Women's World Cup, the prize money gap has closed significantly because FIFA was able to triple the prize money based on the 2019 Women's World Cup. So I think that's major progress. Still has a way to go, but there's also a promise on the table that the gap will be closed completely by 2027. FIFA raised the price for 2023 Women's World Cup to $150 million, which is triple the amount from 2018.
Why is the gap still so large?
I think that if we take a look at the progress for the Women's World Cup, if you recall back in 2015 during the major corruption scandals that really forced FIFA to reform, in 2016, FIFA rewrote its constitution. That's an opportunity for the women to come to the table at FIFA for the very first time. In over 100 years of history, they had no women's voices in leadership. So only recently, the women's football division was created. That was in 2016. And since then, which is less than 10 years, we've seen the Women's World Cup grow to now an audience of 2 billion people that's expected. FIFA also in 2019 guaranteed $1 billion investment in the development of the women's game. But they also decided not to invest all of that in equal prize money, because then that would only go to the elite players. So rather than going straight for an equal prize money, they decided that they would try to spread the investment around in order to develop a game. So that's huge progress in only a few short years, really.
And what do you make of that reasoning behind that gap persisting for a while longer yet?
I think it's a question of how to invest $1 billion. Rather to put that all into the prize money that will go to a few, or to try to reach more teams. FIFA has something like 211 members, member associations at the national level. So to spread that around and try to be a bit more equitable, I think has been a good policy. I don't want to be too rosy on the subject, because the pay gap is real. It's still quite large between the men's and the women's game. And for our side, for you and women, but we don't see this as something that's unique. And there is no country in the world that has entirely closed the pay gap. And on average, 77% remain the amount of money that women make compared to the men.
So women make 77% of what men make?
Correct. On average, globally.
You're not talking just about people there, but across the board?
That's correct.
An awful lot of female players are unhappy with the amount that they are being paid, and have been stating so publicly. Do you think that is good for women beyond football?
I think it's great for women beyond football, and I think that the Women's World Cup and the issues that it raises and the inequalities that remain, including gaps in pay, bring these issues to the world stage like almost no other event or media event that I know of. I think it's very, very positive, because while these gaps remain, I don't think that there's necessarily the awareness that there needs to be in order for the continued closing of these gaps. But the World Cup brings these things to world stage. I think if you recall in 2019, during the Women's World Cup final, the chants from the stadiums of equal pay, equal pay. Well, I don't see another audience that size who's hearing that kind of a message.
Do you think there should be equal pay for equal work, effort if you like, on the pitch during a tournament? Or do you think that the commercial interests here perhaps need to be taken into account, that the amount raised through sponsorship revenue and the like is just lower for the women's tournament as it is for the men's?
I think that the excuse of why women athletes generally in most sports have been underpaid significantly is that the quality of the game and the lack of interest on the part of the audience was to blame. In fact, I think that the World Cup, the Women's World Cup, has proven that to be not true, because we see a huge audience this time. And I think that if it weren't for that $1 billion infusion of an investment on the part of FIFA in deliberately to build the women's game, to develop it, and to bring it to high quality, then we'd still be hearing the same excuses for the broadcasters and sponsors and others not to step up and contribute with something that's a little bit more on par to what we see invested into men's game.
Jennifer Cooper there, the coordinator of Global Sport Partnerships at UN Women. What do you make of what she was saying there? Is it an excuse or a perfectly valid reason? Send us your thoughts by text or WhatsApp, +44 77 86 20 50 85. This is Newsday.
This is the BBC.
BBC World Service with the climate question.
We're here to answer the burning question.
A question that has obsessed people for millennia.
How can we save our planet? Are there easy fixes we can reach for?
How can we make renewables more renewable?
How can we avert or adapt to climate change?
The climate question. Wednesdays at
You are listening to the Overcomer Ministry radio broadcast from Walterboro, South Carolina. For our most current contact information, please visit www.overcomerministry.org. There you will find our mailing address, radio schedule, and phone numbers where you can listen to the broadcast at any time on your phone. Also, make sure to check out the Overcomer podcast. Our prayer line is 843-701-5053. 843-701-5053.
Espiritualmente para o que está por vir. Rádio WLC, preparando um povo para o retorno iminente do Salvador.
Olá a todos, sejam muito bem-vindos ao programa de hoje. Eu sou o apresentador Cris De Luca.
E eu sou Will Santos. Obrigado por estar.
Grosse taxe pour l'acquisition de matériel devant servir à lutter contre le terrorisme. À Ouagadougou, notre correspondant, l'abbé Traoré.
La visite du capitaine Ibrahim Traoré a eu lieu.
La mejor agrupación de rock en la historia del rock. Muchos hablan de los Beatles. Los Beatles para mí fueron una gran banda, obviamente, y los mejores compositores en la historia de la música de rock. Pero banda de rock, como nosotros lo concebimos, en realidad los Stones, usted que allá dicen los Rolling, en los Estados Unidos le dicen los Stones y en Inglaterra también. 30 álbums a través de su larga carrera. ¿Sabe cuántos Grammy? Solamente 3.
I'm Julius Walker. Wildfires are sweeping through the east and they are out of control on the summer vacation island of Rhodes, burning for 7 days now, enforcing the evacuation of...
En familia, por las frecuencias de Radio Rebelde 996.
And in the remnant whom the Lord shall call.
Call upon his name. Psalm 105. Hallelujah.
un changement qui fera beaucoup de bien à ce pays. Nous en avons besoin, nous ne pouvons pas supporter personne.
Dans le nord-est de la République démocratique du Congo, un militaire congolais